When you think about it, your workplace could be a minefield of accidents just waiting to happen. Look around you. Are you aware of all the hazards present? Without addressing those dangers and eliminating or reducing the risks, you're risking injury, illness, and even death. In this program, we'll look at how we can manage risk and create a safer workplace by following a simple three-step process. Identify the hazards, assess the risks, and control those risks. Let's look at each of these steps in turn. A hazard is basically anything that could potentially harm you. In the workplace, hazards can take many forms. Commonly, they include noise, moving vehicles, operating plant and equipment, oil and other spills, airborne contaminants such as fumes and dust, hazardous substances, naked flames, confined spaces, and manual handling. An essential part of any hazard identification process is to carry out regular workplace inspections, making a list of all the hazards you can find. All workplaces are different, so it's a good idea to develop a checklist tailored specifically for your situation. It'll save time and help ensure your future inspections are thorough. Mark off the hazards as you find them and add any new hazards to the bottom of your list. Areas of potential hazard found on many checklists include housekeeping, fire safety, hazardous substances, equipment and machinery, electrical safety, manual handling, and first aid provisions. Go over every work process step by step and look for anything that could go wrong. It's easy to overlook potential hazards in familiar surroundings. It can help if you imagine you're a visitor seeing the site for the first time. What hazards can you identify in your workplace? Ask your workmates to look for and point out any potential hazard they may find. Everyone should be trained to fill out a hazard report sheet as new hazards are detected. Sometimes the physical dangers can be hard to identify. Many are invisible. Is there anything you or your workmates do that creates a hazard? For example, working on scaffolding that has not been securely erected can be deadly. The harmful effects of other hazards, such as exposure to radiation or hazardous substances, may not be immediately apparent. Look at the following scenes closely and see how many hazards you can identify. How many hazards did you identify? Other ways to help you identify hazards include consulting with your workplace safety committee or a health and safety organization familiar with your industry. Consulting with other workplaces that have similar operations to yours. Keeping up with information about materials and equipment you use. And examining records of past accidents in your workplace. Once you've identified the hazards, you're ready to assess the risks those hazards present. A risk is the likelihood that a particular hazard will cause harm. For each hazard you've identified, ask yourself these questions. How easily could someone be hurt? Who is exposed to the hazard? How often are they near the hazard and how close do they get? What would happen if they came into contact with the hazard? Have there been any near misses involving the hazard? Have there been problems with the hazard before? Are there any current work practices that increase the likelihood of the hazard causing harm? Now ask yourself how likely it is that the hazard will cause harm. Is it very likely, likely, unlikely, or very unlikely? We also need to consider the severity of hazards. They generally fall into three groups. A Class A hazard is one that could cause death, serious injury, or permanent disability or illness. A Class B hazard could cause an injury or illness requiring a worker to take time off work. A Class C hazard could cause an injury or illness requiring first aid attention. Go through your hazard identification list, classifying each hazard according to likelihood and severity of risk. Very likely Class A hazards should obviously receive top priority, while very unlikely Class C hazards will be low priority. Corrective action for Class A hazards should be given absolute priority. The area should be thoroughly sealed off and the hazard eliminated prior to any workers re-entering the area. This should occur within 24 to 48 hours. Corrective action for Class B hazards should occur within 7 days. And for Class C hazards, 7 to 14 days. We've seen that a Class A hazard is one that causes death, serious injury, or permanent disability or illness. How do we define Class B and C hazards? You can use your risk assessment as a basis for developing your risk control strategies. Controlling the risks means taking action to eliminate the hazards or to reduce the likelihood that they'll cause harm. The main methods of risk control in order of priority are elimination, substitution, isolation, engineering controls, administrative controls, and use of personal protective equipment. The most effective way to deal with hazards is simply to eliminate the risk. Often the solutions can be very simple. For example, eliminating the risk of slips, trips, and falls and other common hazards is often just a matter of good housekeeping. Mop up oil or grease spills immediately. Clear obstructions from access areas such as doorways and walkways. And never allow rubbish and waste products to accumulate in work areas. Faulty equipment, whether it's a broken electrical fitting, a tool, or a major plant item, should be taken out of service and repaired or replaced. The very best way to eliminate risk from your workplace is to prevent it entering in the first place. This means eliminating it at the design, planning, or purchasing stages. Always select the safest possible materials, equipment, and processes. In many cases, however, hazardous materials, equipment, and processes form a necessary part of work procedures, and it's not possible to eliminate them. When hazards can't be eliminated, other control measures must be applied. The next most effective control is substitution. Can you replace the hazard with a less harmful alternative? There are many instances where hazardous substances can be replaced with less toxic materials. In some situations, water-based paint can be used instead of an organic solvent-based paint. Cleaning solvents producing toxic vapors can in some cases be replaced by less hazardous cleaning agents. Some noise hazards can be isolated from a general work area using a soundproof enclosure. Vapor hazards can be enclosed in a fume cupboard. In some situations where the hazard area is too large to be enclosed, the worker can be isolated in a booth, control room, or cabin. Name the 3 most effective risk control measures in order of priority. Can any of these measures be applied in your workplace? Where isolation isn't possible, engineering controls are the next best option to reduce risk. Installing or modifying machine guards and controls is a common means of protecting workers from plant hazards. Most plant machinery will require some form of guarding. Without it, serious injury can result. Fixed guards are permanently fixed physical barriers that prevent contact with hazardous machine parts. They can also protect an operator from flying objects. Interlocking guards are used when access to a machine is required during normal operation. The machine stops operating when the guard is open. Presence sensing guards, such as light beams and pressure mats, will automatically switch a machine off when the presence of an operator is detected. Other engineering controls include extractors, which can be used to remove fumes and dust. Sometimes workplace design can be re-engineered to improve safety. For instance, manual handling risks can be reduced by storing heavy items appropriately to avoid lifting from ground level or above shoulder height. Mechanical lifting devices can be used to lift heavy or cumbersome items. Engineering controls for noise reduction can include the fitting of silencers or mufflers to machinery, or the use of sound-absorbing materials such as insulation. Repetitive strain hazards can be reduced by using ergonomically designed equipment. This can include desks, chairs and computers, or hand tools used for performing repetitive tasks. One way of doing this is to limit the number of workers exposed to a particular hazard. For example, have only essential operators at noisy workstations and keep all other workers away. Rotate workers so that they're only exposed to hazards for limited periods. Make sure you use the right number of people for the task at hand. Use signs and other warning devices to warn of potential hazards. A major part of administrative control is training, and this is vital to help workers perform their jobs safely. Training can include everything from routine maintenance and housekeeping issues through to detailed instruction on the safe operation of specialized equipment. Performing a job in the absence of proper training can be lethal. In this scenario, the driver and his co-workers receive serious injuries, largely due to the fact that he is operating the forklift incorrectly. With proper training and risk assessment strategies, accidents such as this can be easily avoided. Establish whether everyone in your workplace has received the appropriate skill and safety training for their jobs. If they haven't, make sure they get trained as a matter of priority. Their lives could depend on it. Workers must also be trained in the correct use of personal protective equipment. This is our final option in risk control. There is a huge range of personal protective equipment, or PPE, available, but bear in mind that this is the least effective option in dealing with workplace risk and must always be used in conjunction with other, more effective controls. Incorrect use of safety equipment is a risk in itself. Name the final 3 risk control measures in order of priority. For each hazard you've identified and assessed, record the proposed risk control measure, ensure that it's correctly implemented, and note the date of implementation. It's important to regularly evaluate your risk control measures to ensure they're working effectively. Most workplaces are always changing, so it's a good idea to be constantly on the lookout for the return of old hazards or the arrival of new ones. Remember to keep all your records, such as hazard report sheets and risk management log sheets, for future reference. They'll reflect what's going on in your workplace and will help to run your risk management program more effectively. Risk management is an important part of the day-to-day running of any organization. By using the simple three-step process, identify the hazards, assess the risks, and control the risks, you can effectively manage risk and in doing so, create a safer workplace for everyone.